Okay. Cool. Yeah, you can go ahead and kick it off. And just Dragon King, you've deafened yourself, so you won't be able to hear unless you undeafen yourself.
How will he even heard that instruction?
That's pretty.
What's the point of even telling him?
Yeah. Okay.
Can I throw some like thumbs up at him?
Yeah.
I don't know how you use Discord. I feel like an old man. It's just also weird to me.
Goddamn
Okay.
boomer.
And tell me about it. So we have the new Trendmaster indicator, which is the multi-dimensional volume delta, which is just a fancy way of saying it's going to show you lots of volume information. So we've tried to give you features that are available on TradingView Premium and other things that are available on other trading sites where you can see sort of live volume data and where limits are stacked and stuff like that. But we wanted to collate it all into one on TradingView very simply so that even free TradingView users can get the benefit from it. So this is the multi-dimensional volume delta. First thing you'll see when you load it up is this volume profile we've got here. Now this is just auto applying for the most recent high impact volume zone. So if we just load up Bitcoin on the daily, basically since we bottomed out, it's auto identified that since the bottom in price, that's where the volume data that we care about is. So we can see all the green bars here indicate buy volume support if we were to go down. The red indicate potential resistance and sell volume. And then what Chris likes to mention a lot, volume dead zones, they become much clearer to see when you've got the volume profile up here, because you can see areas where price is likely just going to zip right through until we get to another decent point of volume support. So pretty nice. We also have the point of control line here. I'll just change the color on that actually so you can see it a bit better. One thing with this indicator is it's so feature packed, it does take a second to load. But this yellow line here is the point of control. So on the daily, it's not the most important part of price action right now, but this works on any time frame, and you can basically see price ping pong around this point of control. It's the highest area, the highest price point of volume we've had during this period, so it usually has a large impact on price, and a lot of people are watching that level. So that's the volume profile side of things. I'll just remove it so we can drop down. We'll zoom in, and as you can see, the candles look a little bit different. So if I just turn it off, you'll see how normal candles look like. I'm sure you all know what a normal candle looks like. But here we have volume control candles. Now these make the normal candles transparent and overlay these new candles, which contain 50% of that candle's volume. So they might sound a little confusing, but if we just focus on, for example, up here, this candle in particular, we can see this was a pretty bullish candle. God, that's a terrible drawing. Green candle towards the top, but as you can see, all of the volume came just at the very top here, which indicates we had a lot of late longs coming in, and then we just had some chop sideways before going down. And what you can see is, especially after we've had a big dip, for example, if you have a huge amount of buy volume at the bottom wick of a green candle, that usually indicates that someone's come in, made a huge market order to push price back up above a certain level or something. So that's the volume candles, and like I said, that's where a majority of that candle's volume actually came into effect. It's one of my favourite parts of it, but it takes a little bit of getting used to, especially once you see the overlays. It does look a little bit weird, but that coincided with the volume profile, can tell you not just where price action's going, but the influence of the intra-candle volume and how that impacted price. So along with that, in fact, I'll just show this one thing as well. As well as the volume profile, we can have the volume ranges. Now these show you high volume ranges in price action.
Slick, your mic's on, by the way. Okay, I'm turning it off. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So these volume ranges show you areas where price action hasn't really moved a lot, but again, a considerable amount of volume coming in. And this usually signifies accumulation or distribution. So at the bottom down here, we had this huge volume range where we had a huge amount of volume. Price didn't really move. And this is mainly just whales filling their bags. And again, we had a very small one just occurring here, where we just had a couple of days of price barely moving, but a huge amount of volume coming in. And again, this coincided with probably whales filling their longs, and we had this huge pump to the upside. So that's volume ranges. Again, on the daily, they don't occur too often, but this works on pretty much any time frame. So once I've gone through it all, I'll drop down and show you some more live examples. But as well as that, we have order book. Now this is looking at open interest and volume divergences, which usually indicate that there is lots of limits being placed at a particular price. So I turn this on, as I said, it takes a little second, but you'll see layered over price action where people had their limits set, where once we'd actually passed through, we had a huge increase in volume. Prior to that, we had a huge increase in open interest, and we can basically see where people are wanting to buy and sell. So especially here, we can see people stacking all their long limit orders, betting on a dip just beneath this support, resistance level, whatever you'd call it. So if we to come down, it'd fill all of these, and things would be looking good. But then you can see as well, as price came into this region here, lots of shorts got filled, we dipped, longs got filled, we pumped, shorts got filled, we dipped, etc., etc. So that's pretty nice, pretty intuitive, and it kind of looks a little bit like the liquidations, but rather than looking at where people are going to be getting out of their positions, this is looking at where people are going to be getting into their positions. So they work together quite nicely. As well as that, we have the cumulative delta, which I think is really cool. So I'll just turn off the volume profile as well. So this is looking at the cumulative volume over a set period. So we're on the daily time frame here, so it's always going to go to a slightly higher time frame. So in this case, the monthly. I'm just going to brighten that up a bit with me being on the dark theme. But you can see as this cumulative volume builds up, it indicates that a lot of people are taking long positions. But what you can see as well is when we're ranging, you can see it positive, then flip negative, then positive, negative. And it'll show you comparatively what the cumulative volume is showing. So as soon as this flips negative on this candle, you can see in this month we've had more downwards volume than bullish volume, and then we had this huge dump to the downside. And again, same is true for the upside. Once we have this blip down here, we dump, and then as soon as it pumps up again, we have this huge pump to the upside. So it's pretty nice to see which way people are actually positioning themselves, and especially if we get a divergence where price action has moved up considerably, but we're potentially still in a downwards volume delta. Maybe it's not a sustainable long move, but it's just a nice way where you can really quickly see not just the volume, but how it's actually impacting price action over a set period of time. So as I said, on the daily now, this is looking at the monthly volume delta, but if I just drop down onto the hourly, for example, it'll show you the daily volume delta. So that lines up pretty nicely with something like the auto charting tools, where you can see the daily opens and you can see, oh wow, we're actually getting a huge amount of bearish volume at the daily open. Maybe this is a big resistance, maybe this is a point where I should be shorting the asset, and it's just pretty nice. So as I said, it works on every time frame. I wanted to make it as simple as possible. There's so many volume indicators out there which require 50 different inputs, and it's impossible to really know what it's all doing. All the instructions are within the tooltips here, and you can just turn it on, click 3 or 4 buttons. It's going to look crazy with everything on, but then it's absolutely amazing for intraday scalping and trying to actually spot where tops and bottoms are, because in this most recent Bitcoin top move here, you could just see volume dying down. You could see a huge area of sell resistance. You could see these volume ranges building up here, and then it was just an easy move. As soon as this range formed, we had this huge volume profile build out. We came down, came up, hit the point of control, and then it's just been down ever since. So it's just another tool for your arsenal, especially alongside something like Harmony, Core Signals, Auto Charting tools. We just wanted to add something that really gave you all the volume data you ever needed. It's pretty much the only thing we haven't provided yet. We've got trend following in Core, we've got some more reversal thing, we've got some on-chain, we've got some technical analysis, but we wanted some volume data. So yeah, this is the multi-dimensional volume delta, and as Chris said, this should hopefully be going live for you to use pretty soon.
Cool. So any questions from people? It's pretty much open board there if people want to have any questions or thoughts, or maybe everyone's just mad they could want to use it, and that's about it.
Yeah, and the same goes for every other indicator. If you do get to use it and there's new features you'd like to add, there's something you don't quite understand or you'd want changing, you think it'd work better this way or that way, just let me know. It's literally my job to make these things good. So feel free to reach out whenever you want. I don't know if people have the new Flow Index version as well.
Yeah, I'm pushing it right now. They do have the new version. They do have the new version. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe you should go over Flow a bit more too, because I know that's a lot of data for people, and people have been asking like how do they use it the most effectively for reversals, essentially, because that's what it is. You're being able to target different ecosystems and different types of coins.
I think it'd be cool as well for us to go over, like, analyze the current market conditions and kind of show how we can spot things out, like, at current price. You know what I mean? I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, so did anyone have any questions about the new volume indicator?
Yeah, I just wanted to see an example of how you were going to... You say it could spot tops and bottoms, right?
Yes, so if I just add on, I think cumulative delta is probably the best way to really show this off. And there'll be lots of different ways people will personally find good use out of it. But for lost my words there. For potentially spotting tops and bottoms, I like something like the cumulative volume delta because it really gives you some insight into how much volume is actually changing. So for example, the bottom here, we had this huge decrease in delta here, indicating that a vast majority of people are shorting, and then almost instantly we pop into a positive delta area, which means that not only is this move fueled by a huge amount of volume, but then it actually sustained, which indicates that probably was the market bottom, and then we went up, over 10k. And then as we sort of topped out here, if I just go into a bit of a lower time frame, it might be a bit more obvious. So as we pull into the top here, again, we have the sustained upwards volume, but then as price is moving sideways, we're getting this cumulative volume delta, indicating that there's a lot of negative volume. So usually this indicates more distribution in the market, and then especially coinciding with the volume profile like we see here. We saw more bearish volume coming in, and as we came down and retested this point of control and had this huge downwards pressure in the cumulative delta, it indicates that not only did we hit resistance, but then so much volume came in to sell at that point of resistance that almost certainly indicated that this was the top. If we came here and there was very little volume, sell side pressure, maybe we make a higher low here, and that would indicate that maybe this is just a slight pullback before continuation to the upside. But usually when you look at the volume, it gives you this extra insight into, well, just the supply and demand. All trading is really supply and demand, and the more people that want to buy are the more people that want to sell. And obviously price action is a great way to do that, but once you actually include the volume data, it actually shows you the numbers behind how many people are buying and how many people are selling. And on the delta as well, if you actually zoom in a little bit here, it can show you the end of the session that we had 1,755 Bitcoin more bought in this daily session. So this was a fairly high upside amount of volume, whereas we see here for the past 2 days, even though prices had a fairly decent rebound, the delta's showing that we've had very negative sell volume, much higher than we had on our positive day here. So if anything, the volume we're seeing now is indicating that probably going to get more downside, or at least some more sideways consolidation. But then this is where you pair it up and look for confluence between other things, whereas if we go into a slightly higher time frame, and this is where Chris's volume dead zones come into effect, where if we do actually break beneath this point with a high amount of volume, because there's a huge dead zone here, we're likely going to dip towards that 25k region that Chris was mentioning. And especially as we are beneath this point of control, this point of control was established since when we bottomed out at the previous all-time high here. So unless we break above this with a high amount of volume, to be honest, I would say we're more likely to go to the downside and potentially test this region down here. So marking tops and bottoms is usually not just a one-trick pony. You can't just look at one thing and say, oh, we had lots of sell-side volume. This is where you look for confluence between we had sell side volume into resistance as we had declining buy side volume on the move up, and then you can get more hints and more clues, especially after we sort of retraced a little bit that did mark the market top. So I hope that clarified it a little bit. Speechless. Right.
Really good, dude. I like it.
So
looks awesome.
well, I hope you enjoy it, and like I said, any feedback, any additional requests, anything like that, please let me know. I'm more than happy to tweak it, improve it, do whatever in any way possible to try and make it the best we can. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I've found it to be pretty useful.
I've been using it to scalp all week, and I can say it's incredible, honestly. Especially for the lower time frames, it shows reversals like perfectly.
Yeah, especially it's like cheat codes, especially lining up with something like the auto charting tools, where you can just look at the levels to play and you just see price ping pong between the levels. It's like easy mode, really.
It really is, isn't it? It does feel like cheating.
So right now, I'll go over the flow index a little more. I'm just going to turn the neutral color to yellow so you can see it a little clearer. I'm just streaming from McDonald's at the minute, so the internet's not great. But if we see the flow index here, so I've separated it from version 1 when it was all clade together into sectors and subsectors, because I think this better displays the movement of capital from large caps, which are going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and moves that really kick off and move to the upside, and alts and shitcoins and stable coins, which indicate that we're potentially coming to the peak of a move to the upside. So as we can see, large caps 5.67% on the flow score. Nothing really to write about here. It's all very neutral. Stable coins are still positive, which indicates that there's probably a little bit of indecisiveness in the market. If we just go to a slightly higher time frame, we'll see here that large caps do actually have a slightly higher flow score than stable coins and stuff. So maybe this is indicating that a few people are trying to accumulate, but really anything below sort of 10 on the flow score, unless it's beneath -10, it doesn't really show you too much. So this isn't the best period of price action to really show off how it works. So in fact, I'll just rewind a little bit on here and we can see. So when we got this huge move up on Bitcoin, we had this incredibly positive large caps flow score. Now this is indicating that a lot of capital is going into these large cap coins, which really sort of shows that the move probably is going to be sustained a little bit, or at least we're going to see this move into large caps and then flow into altcoins and shit coins before eventually stable coins. Because the general rule of how crypto capital flows is it goes from Bitcoin first into Ethereum, into altcoins, into shitcoins, and then into stable coins. So it goes from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, and then it comes all the way back around into Bitcoin again. So once we see this large cap score incredibly high, it probably means that we're in stage 1 of the short-term crypto life cycle. And then once we see this start topping off, maybe look at the ETH BTC chart, and we can see once Ethereum starts running that we're maybe here. And then once we actually continue forward a bit, we'll see this altcoins score start moving above the large cap score. And once we see that happen, it means we're here. At this point, you need to start looking into these sort of mid-cap altcoin plays. We're talking Litecoin, Binance Coin, Ripple, anything that's kind of medium-sized, been around for a few years, moves fairly cyclically. Obviously, there's a lot of correlation to Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it has its own sort of price action structure and stuff. And then once we see the shitcoin score become the highest, means we are in probably the final or penultimate stage of the cycle, where Bitcoin's probably going sideways, Ethereum's probably not doing too much either, and this is where we see Doge just pump and dump coins, go absolutely parabolic for seemingly no reason. This is the really tail end of the cycle where all the big players have locked in their profits, and this is where retail is just trying to get every single percent multiple possible on illiquid projects that have absolutely no fundamental meaning or anything like that. And then once we've seen that happen, we'll see the stable coin score start to climb up, because this is when the market starts moving down. As soon as we get downwards price action in Bitcoin, everything else is usually not too far behind. It's just a more volatile version of the Bitcoin price action. So once we see the stable coin value increase considerably, this usually means we're here locking some profits, and hopefully the downwards move isn't too volatile. But if you can lock in profits just as we start the downwards move, and if we continue considerably lower, then you've locked in profits at a fairly decent point. So once you've worked out what stage of the cycle we're in, you can change this to subsectors, because if we're in the altcoin stage or the shitcoin stage, you can then go to subsectors and say, right, I know we're here, I know I need to be in altcoins, I know money needs to be in these sort of mid-cap, even small-cap projects, but exactly where do I put my capital? And this is where you drop down to the subsectors. Let's move across here a bit. So, yeah, nothing's jumping out too much right now. What we can see is that DEX projects like Uni, Sushi, Woo, anything like that is probably doing pretty good right now. And then not only can we see the flow score compared to the general market, but we can also see the correlation. So when you see a negative correlation, it usually means that it's moving against the general market. So as we can see, most things are going very sideways, potentially downwards in price action. If we have a -1 correlation, it means things are probably going up. It means they're doing the exact opposite of what we'd expect the general market to be doing. So a negative correlation usually indicates it's moving independently from everything else, and especially when it has a positive flow score, it means that it's definitely outperforming most things. We can also see gaming's doing pretty good, as well as NFT projects. So if we see NFT projects, for example, are doing good, and then we just go to Ape BTC, for example, we can see this is starting to add a really nice uptick against Bitcoin. So not only is NFT projects like Ape doing well compared to the general market, but when you measure it against something like Bitcoin, you can see over the past few days, really, it's outperformed quite considerably. So this is how you can use the flow index. You can look and say, right, I need to be in this sector. What are the top projects in that sector? Right, okay, well, if I compare them to Bitcoin performing, this is where I need to park my capital, because I think these coins in this subsector are going to be where capital flows to next, when we have the biggest upside potential for large gains. So that's how you use the flow index. Hopefully that helps a little bit. The chart's gone a little bit weird there, because if you load up the flow index for the first time, it's going to be not overlaid on your chart like this. It's going to look something like this. What you can also do as well is, if you take high time frame data, this will load up the flow score based on the higher time frame values. So if you're intraday trading on the hourly, 2 hour, 4 hour something, and you take the higher time frame data, it's going to ignore the potentially little pump and dumps we have in price action, and it's going to look at the the daily, the weekly, the higher time frame factors. So you can see, okay, intraday looks good, intraday flow score is very high, but then as well on a higher time frame, it's still one of the best performing subsectors. Well, that also gives me the confidence that this isn't just a short-term move, but we have some potential legs on this to run for a little while. So yeah, on the 8 BTC chart, it looks a bit messy. I'll just go back to Bitcoin. But that's the flow index.
Cool beans. Anybody got anything else they want to ask? Any other questions regarding some of the indicators or usage? And regarding the volume delta, what's that?
I said, I think round of applause for Bing for making such amazing indicators for us.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I'm working on getting the volume, the MDVD pushed today. So I was hoping to get up by Wednesday, but we got everything up and running now. Just making sure that the notes and the how to use description stuff is all correct.
That's why it was weird. I wondered why the scale was all weird. I was on logarithmic. So, yeah, it looks a bit more normal once you have the right scale. If anything ever looks weird, just double check here that you've got it scaled to price jar and it's not on logarithmic because then it looks weird like this. Just go regular and then it all works out.
Yeah, I was wondering on that. That's cool. But, I mean, the biggest thing there, it's like you see basically the natural shifts. That's what's going on. I mean, like looking at the price action now, it's so funny to see alts and stable going up. Large caps are way down, and then when we see the switch, essentially you want to see the stable start breaking back to the downside, and then large caps starting to move as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we saw in the initial move off the bottom here. We saw Bitcoin and large caps far outperform, and then especially as this continued higher, because everything was probably pumping in unison initially. But then as we saw that this maybe have formed the bottom, we see this shitcoin and altcoins score drop off considerably because all the money is flowing into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then as we've gone sideways chop, as soon as this stable score gets the highest, we see the downwards move start taking place. And then almost exactly on the bottom, we see large caps become the highest score again. And boom, it kicks off a 10k move to the upside before, as we saw again later in the cycle, altcoins and then shitcoins not long after taking the highest point because everyone's just trying to maximize their gains at the tail end of the move.
What does it look like on like the? Can it show the weekly or no? Is it too high?
No, it'll show the weekly.
Mate, this is going to be so good for the next bull run. I'm so excited to use this.
I mean, yeah, you could literally see where it was going. I mean,
yeah, you can just see where everything's flowing. Like we used to have to like calculate this by like looking at all the different groups and seeing what they're doing.
Dominances and
yeah, and now it's just there in front of you. It's beautiful. Such a good job, mate.
Yeah, so the shitcoins value doesn't go back too far, but I mean the bull cycle here, it played out so perfectly where stable coins were supreme. As soon as large caps took over, literally right at the bottom here, we had this huge bull run, and as soon as we peaked out for the first time here and we start slowing down, we see this big divergence in the price where price isn't really going too much higher, but we're just getting more and more overbought. We see altcoins just go exponential because here is when we have this tail end of this bull cycle where everything was just going up, 200-300%, and then as soon as we get this downwards move, we see the stable coin flow just go, by far the highest, and everything else dips substantially. So it'll be really interesting to see how it works out in the next cycle, but I imagine it'll be very similar where we get this Bitcoin, Ethereum, alts, shit stables.
But even then, I mean, look at the highs that we did back at the tail end of the bull run. When we made the new all-time high. Look how deviating that was from like the previous run up.
Yeah, so this flow score is taking into account the entire market performance. So when we see everything about even, it just means there's so much indecisiveness in the market. And yeah, you see this deviation play out perfectly, where Bitcoin's just making the lower highs on the flow score, and everything else is like, especially the stable coins is just continuously making really high scores on this. And we can see here after we made this actual all-time high and we come down, we can see altcoins continue to run a little bit, shit coins come into the calculation because just that's when the index can be calculated from. And then as soon as these start dropping down here, it's just stablecoin supremacy all the way down. And then as we bottomed out here and just had sideways chop, everything's intermingled because there's just no interest in the space. Nothing's really doing anything. Everything's boring. No volatility or anything. So yeah, it's really easy and cool to see the cycles like this play out.
Can you go back to like the previous bull run or just zoom out a little bit?
Yeah, the indexes we've made don't, and the data we can pull doesn't cover too far. So I mean, previous bull run we can only get so much.
It's really kind of saying that we're probably going to have a larger move up here. Like I love it. It's confirming everything we're talking about. The fact that
it's like look at that, like the high cap. Yeah. If anything, the high cap move feels like looking back to what we're doing now, we're starting to break down a little bit, but we haven't really lost anything yet. It actually kind of feels like we're at that first little hump that we did back in like 2019. Like we're doing the first.
Saying, dude, the 7. It looks exactly like it as well on price action. Like zoom in and you don't have to now, but it's the exact same like clone of it basically.
Well, actually, the one after that, like that one. That's what it feels like because that was the flush out. You see a big flush out in the large caps, and then it still did the continuation move up. It did a 2x from there.
Exactly, the 7K to 14K move.
And it was deviating on everything
as well. Exactly the same. They came back down. They took all of the lows. They made everyone think it was really bearish, and then they just pumped it. They got everyone as well. I remember the entire crypto Twitter was calling for like 2K or something stupid, like they always do.
Just curious if we go to here and turn that off. Just look at how the volume looked at the time. See if it looked very similar. Oh, on the weekly, that's why it looks weird. Yeah, this looks super similar. Man, even the volume profile. If you just take a screenshot of that, it looks identical. I'm just going to take a snipping tool.
Yeah, that's what I did. Clone it and put it on top of it. Even the dump as well here, if you go a bit farther forward, they've come and they've taken like the exact low that they did here. Do the bars tool so you can put it on top of it. Go and grab a bars snapshot of it and put it on top. It's like exactly the same.
Yeah, I will. I was just amazed that the volume profile looks identical.
Exactly the same. And it never revisited.
Like that lines up, perfectly with the bottom. We see this huge middle zone here as price stops a little bit. Obviously, we had a little bit of a breakdown to previous all-time high, but then just runs up more, and now we're just getting this downwards move out before another move higher.
Cool, isn't it?
Very cool.
Very cool, gentlemen. Where's the ban? Where's the ban button? Where's the ban? No, yeah, I mean that's the thing too. I mean it's so funny because if enough people trade this stupid nonsense, it becomes relevant to TA, which is the craziest thing. You know, it's like I remember a guy who was around a couple of years ago who was really into like GAN fans and Mercury retrograde lunar cycles, and he wouldn't trade on full moons and like all these other things. Like,
Bing,
if enough people do it.
Bing, if you pull it over a bit, pull it a little bit more towards the to the left, right? I think that we're at the left bit. So here, you see how on the green one they went down and they held the structure just before it did that last final pump. That's what we're doing here. It's the exact same structure. They built this. They farmed out this structure going up. They came and they took the high, as you can see right there on like the March level, and then they came back down, swept the lows exactly there. Yeah, it's literally exactly the same price action. Like I was talking to Chris about this the other night, and we were just like, mate, it's identical. And also the circumstances are identical as well, like from the bottom forming. Yeah, exactly. So they've got everyone here. They've closed under this, I guess, lower time frame level, making everyone bearish, and then they just literally V-bottom it out the dip and just moon it.
Straight to 46K.
Exactly, which we've been saying. I know, it's just so perfect, isn't it? I love it.
It'd be funny if it actually does it. Because my dream scenario, like perfect scenario, is actually they pop 46K and then they pop all of the shorts that are anything left over, and then that's it. That's done. Then we get sideways volume, crabby, nasty death until the next halvening, and then we start getting volume pickups.
They might even do a little higher because they did a 2x from there. So considering we're at 27, they might even do like 51, 52, like we said. Pop the big stops from up there. Loads of people will have shorts from there still.
I think the next halvening is the 5th of April currently, so I could see something like that.
I think we go harder down though. I think we would farm out. I think that if we do that really big high, I still think we revisit something like 25 or something.
I think we do. I think 20. I think 20 is the final bottom.
I could see 30K holding. I think then for like literally nearly a year we have this 45K to 30K range where we just grab and do nothing. Maybe we do get like this COVID move where as we come down we sort of wick beneath and come back up to wipe everyone out at 25k maybe. That would be pretty brutal before regaining and then, going sideways. Exactly like we did previously.
Well,
Exactly.
next year's an election
I
year
like it.
too, so
I like it taking the stops from the beginning of the move, though, because if you looked, the only area that we actually haven't properly retested was the beginning of the move at like 20k. I reckon if they take the 20.3 or 20.1k stops, that will get everyone from the move. Yeah, exactly that. So then the bottom is 20k. That was the fractal I had.
That'd be great. That would be max pain. Leave everyone behind, everyone longs right up here, and then run it back down to previous all-time high or something.
Well, that's the only way you have the liquidity to push it back down. That was why we couldn't break below 16, is because there was no one left to sell to.
And everyone gets so bullish in these bear market rallies, like they literally get everyone, man. I mean, when you don't know trading, you don't realize that they're just doing a retest. It does look like a bull run's about to start again, and then you just get mugged.
Yeah, unless they, something significant starts happening as a change, and we, instead of looking at 2017, 2018 as the previous cycle, or excuse me, 2019, we then start looking at like 2013, 2014 as a super cycle. If it does actually gain that 47, 46 zone.
I could really see that playing out. I think the COVID crash won't happen to that extent because we would just need a big fundamental event. But I could see us wicking down to like we said, 25k, 26k there. Not getting this wick beneath and then sort of farm out and come back.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think that the COVID crash just accelerated it a bit. Like, I think it probably still would have gone to like 4K, but I think it just would have gone a little bit slower and, less explosive. But I still feel like the orders were still there, and the level that we didn't test was the 4K level. So I kind of feel like that was written. And also, a really good market maker that we both know was calling 4K since the beginning of the run and had all of his orders there to fill. So it's really interesting.
Like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But premium content here with Trendmasters. Cool. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about any indicators, any other indicators they'd like to see, any features, additions, clarifications on anything like that? Let me know. Round of applause. Fuck me, boys. Thank you. I don't know how you do that. Clap. I didn't make the noise. Oh, that'll do. But yeah, well, thanks for tuning in. I'll stop streaming. Anyone else have anything they want to cover?
Great stuff, mate. I think that's it. Anything from you, Chris?
No, that's it. I'm just working on filling out the stuff for the MDVD, and then I'll announce the push later today.
So, one thing, in the newest version, I removed the short title, MDVD. It's just always multi-dimensional volume delta now.
Yeah.
Would you prefer that, or do you like the short title?
No, I like it because it makes sense. Multi-dimensional volume delta. It sounds really sexy, too.
There are version numbers on our end. Would you like version numbers that you can see? I know I did that in Core because, especially with the automation, it was very handy to be able to see which was doing which. But in fact, yeah, can we do that just on the indicator description page, and then when you
No, you can't upload different versions. If you push an update, it doesn't let you change. It pushes the whole update. Like, once it's updated, if you ever reload the indicator, otherwise you'd have to publish. Essentially what you'd have to do is
publish, but it will just have the change log like we did before. Just put it in the change log. So the V's and everything go in the change log, so you can see them updating as you go in the description.
I do update in the change log and say like what's fixed or what's changed.
Yeah.
Everything's on version 6 as of today.
Version 6. Well, I pushed everything now. There's the only ones that were updated. Some of the stuff wasn't updated. Like the oscillator and the oscillator and the core trend were the only ones that had updates to them.
Although, did you? Because I removed the little thing in the code that we were told we weren't allowed.
Oh
That's
yeah,
why
I did.
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just in the name.
Right. Cool. All sorted then, I think.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks everybody. It was a fun little session. I know it was a weird one doing it on Monday instead of Tuesday, but we had everyone